Greetings, class. How are you doing today? It is my hope everyone is progressing well as you are completing your 7-2 final project submission agency exploration. I wanted to take a moment out and do a video recording that actually walks you through this assignment because I want you to focus on this because it's worth 215 points, which can make a big deal if you're if you learn how to put all of the key content that you've learned from the ebook as well as the APA formatting into this paper to make it a scholarly submission. So to assist in doing that, I wanted to create a video that you can have as you're walking through your assignment. To complete it, you're actually hearing the steps and the information and the key content that your instructor knows that you would need to put in this assignment in order for it to align with the instructions as well as the rubric. Remember, faculty do not create these assignments, nor do we assign the chapter readings. All assigned readings and assignments are done by the content specialist that's located in the department and at the university. So with that being said, but we do have a little background guide that we can walk you through to show you exactly what you need to put in the assignments along with our expertise, especially mine, of 20 years of being in the human service profession and the degree to go with it. So without further ado, let's begin. I am going to share my screen, which is actually going to pull up your Module 7 final project. Feel free to join along if you want to pull up your screen as you're listening to this video. Okay? All right, so let me move my screen up to the top, volume thing up to the top so I can begin. Okay. So for this particular assignment, again, it's worth 215 points, which I am stressing to focus on, is about an agency exploration. So if we take a look at it, you're going to find that it gives an overview about the human service profession and how you can work in a variety of settings as a human service professional. It revisits examples such as the hospitals, mental health centers, addiction treatment programs, child welfare courts, probation schools, and food banks. However, I want to share this disclaimer. In the human service profession, it is not every single position that helps a person. We actually have a definitive listing of job roles and job responsibilities that would consider or give us the title of human service profession. And I will show you where you can look for that, which is also going to be a part of your final project assignment. It is important to make a note that this final project assignment is built from, or I should say, designed from, or refers you back to modules 2, 4, 5, and 6. And then you also have the information that's given to you in module 7. So these are the focus areas. Again, they're module 2, module 4, module 5, module 6, and the information in module 7. Okay, so let's move further down. There are some competencies that you are going to revisit to include in your assignment. And I'll show you how they link up in just a second. But for right now, I just want you to document these 3 competencies and the chapters that they come from. Okay? Now, when we look at the first one, it's describing how the agency roles, services, and roles reflect the historical development of human services. Of course, we know agency roles actually comes from the career roles can be found in your ebook on page 4. The historical aspect of the human services profession is coming from chapter 2 in your ebook. So again, page 4 for the agency roles of the services, and then chapter 2 for just learning about the history of the human service profession. In describing ethical standards, theories, and trends of the current human services practice, please refer back to, I would say, the ethical standards are really can be found on page 10, or you can visit the National Organization for Human Services website. And let me show you where that is. So if you go to, let's see, let's look at some browser tabs. See if this would be it here. If you go through the browser tabs, you will see right here is the National Organization for Human Services Professional. If you click on About, you will come to the ethical standards. When it says About right here, ethical standards are right there. And these are all of our guidelines to follow as we work with clients. So these are known as your ethical standards. So not to make you dizzy, but just to show you. All right. So now, since you can see my tabs, let's go back to the assignment. All right. So here we go. When we're looking at the directions, I want you to pay very close attention to some of the keywords that should guide you in terms of how you should complete the directions. So let's take a look. All right. Hmm. The directions state for your final project, you will select an agency, which means that you've already selected an agency because pretty much all of your module assignments from module 1 to module 6 combines into module 7. So when you select an agency, this means that you have the name of the agency and the services that the agency provides. Also, you know the roles that the agency have, like the positions and the titles. And then, of course, what type of services do those positions provide to the clients enrolled in the agency to receive services. So just kind of go back and outline that information first, what your agency is, and of course that's the agency you have been addressing in your assignments throughout the term. Also, take a look at the services it provides, make that documentation, and then of course the position that you explored that you would like to work in, and then also document the position's job responsibilities. Let me say it like that. Or roles and responsibilities. All right. And then it says you will then explain why you selected this particular agency, which means that you have to name the agency. So select why you would like this particular agency or why you selected this particular agency instead of others. You will research the type of services that the agency offers, and I already gave you that insight from the first sentence. And then you will write about how the history right here, and the current trends have influenced this agency, as well as the theories, the values, and the ethical standards you would apply if you worked at the agency. Keywords. that needs to be included in your paper: the theories, the values, and the ethical standards. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this. In the human service profession, or in your assignments as you progress through the term, or if this is your last term, congratulations. One of the things that you're going to, if you go out for interviews, one of the key things about a human service professional interview is that if you're interviewing for a position, they already know this stuff. They're going to ask in terms of how well you show that you're familiar with this, and how will it contribute to advancing their agency. So it's very important that you learn what the theories are, what the values are, and what the ethical standards are. And in the assignment, how you would apply it if you were to work at that agency. So in other words, the rubric is actually looking for what you learned in the course text or the course ebook about the theories, the values, and the ethical standards. Not something that's off the top of your head, because remember, you're coming to learn about a degree, not the fact that what you already know from the outside world to get a degree. The key assignment instructions will always line up with the chapter readings, and that will line up with the rubric, if that helps. Also, you will address how your personal challenges might be challenged. And remember, it's okay to talk about your personal challenges, but make sure it aligns from a human services perspective, because now you're implementing what you've learned, giving your perspective as it relates to a professional role. The responsibilities and roles of the helping process. So, keyword, we're looking at the helping process. That could include the stages of the helping process. That would be, and that's, of course, the stages of the helping process is what falls under human services. The helping process, if you have looked at your readings, it falls under social work. So social work and human services may be intermingled, but they really are two different positions. So it would be most better to lean on the helping process that we just learned about in your course ebook, instead of which is the stages of the helping process, instead of the social work's helping process. Does that help? And also what qualifications you will need in order to apply for a job at the agency. So whatever agency you're going for, you're going to go back to that agency and look at the position that you would like to apply for or work in or stay in if you're working in it. And just pull those qualifications that you would need in order to be able to get the job or to sustain the job. Now, if you want to know what the qualifications are, it's located in your ebook on page 5. So just go to your ebook and look at page 5. It really revisits like what qualifications is, so that it can guide you to locating the correct information. Okay? All right. So now, scanning the beginning of the assignment, what you definitely want to start on, and keeping in mind that this assignment must be written in APA format. I have attached APA sample papers to students' assignments, to your assignments, if I felt that you could use it as a guide. But the APA information is located in the course announcements. Please model the APA format, which means that you're including a title page that only includes the title of the information. That it's like your title, your name, your school, and your instructor. That's going to be on the title page. Nothing else should be on that title page. And then begin the second page with, most students begin with an introduction, of their agency, which I think is perfect because you're introducing the reader about the agency and you're sharing some little feedback, some background about what it is before you dive head on into answering the assignment. So it's okay to be a little creative and keep it scholarly. The sample APA SNHU paper actually gives you a little introduction. So feel free to do so. All right. Another key point I want to mention before I go through these is for every bold heading, this should be a bold heading that is centered in your paper. This helps me as the instructor to locate the information because remember, you're writing the paper as a student and you know what you're incorporating in the paper. If there are no headings to guide the instructor in terms of what information is meeting which area of the rubric, it's going to be very challenging and time consuming to try to locate this information. So I would appreciate if you were to just put the headings because first of all, it meets APA guidelines. And secondly, it helps me to grade expediently. So once I see the headings and I'm able to locate the information for each area of the rubric, this is perfect in order for me to respond quickly and timely in getting those scores and feedback back to you. Okay. So definitely make sure that all of the bold headings in this assignment are also placed and centered in your paper. Okay. If you have questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. If you need some tutoring assistance, feel free to reach out to the SNHU Online Writing Center. Okay, so let's begin. You have the agency. We talked about selecting the agency. I'm going to just kind of read it in a group for each one because it makes it a whole lot faster. Select an agency where you would like to be employed and give a rationale for choosing that particular profession. Go back to the assignment and my feedback where you address that. What is the agency you selected and what is your rationale for choosing it? So just kind of, these two kind of go intertwined. They're pretty much saying the same thing. So you could just kind of address the agency and then give your rationale for choosing that agency. What other agencies did you consider and why did you not select them? Name an agency that you did consider and as an alternative, and then describe clearly why did you not select them. Could it be the job, the responsibilities, the pay, or the client services? That is the normal reason why you would not select the agency or did choose another agency that was in consideration. And then also address why would you like to be employed at this agency? When you're doing this, I would like to see some key theories, some helpful key terms to show that this is why you would like to be employed. Because remember, when you go for an interview, this is pretty much what they ask for. And they're not looking for generic responses, like something that you would just think of off the top of your head. They're looking for what have you learned that you can implement in our agency to advance and provide better services to our clients. And that means to share key terms, theories, just about anything that you learn about being a human service professional. That's what they're looking for. All right. So hopefully that helped for that section. Now, when we get to the agency description, the goal is now anytime you see this word, that means it comes with citation. Make a note of that. Anytime you see the word research, that means that I'm looking for a citation. So research the types of services this agency offers, looking at its website, visiting the agency if possible, emailing or interviewing someone who works at the agency. So remember, you had to create some interview questions. what you're going to do is take those questions plus the discussion that you had to do, I think in chapter 5, where you had to go back and talk about those stages of the helping process after you created those questions and describe the main types of services offered. So actually describe what the agency does. And then, as you have done before, identify those professionals that work within the roles. So go back and pull this information and my feedback to make sure that it's correct and accurate in this section to talk about what that agency is about, what you've learned, what are the main types of services offered, and also the types of professionals that are pretty much hired at the agency and they're working at the agency. And it's going to help me to locate that agency and see if this is actually what they're doing. All right. So when we get to history and trends, uh, I'm just going to kind of summarize this section real quick. Describe the development of the organization. So how was it? What's the history of it? How it was founded? Also give a brief history of it. So how has this agency progressed since it's been developed, since it's what they call inception, at the time that it was created? What has it done throughout the historical time in working with clients and improving services and programs, or maybe expanding? This is where you're going to give just a brief history of the agency. Consider consider describing who established it. Talk about the persons or company or federal, state, local agencies that have established this, or organizations that have established this agency. Go back to your assignment where it talks about why was it originally established and how has it progressed over the years. Include the mission of the agency and other key information about how it provides services to clients within a specific community. And remember, anytime you're giving a history or describing the current trends, make sure that you use citations of your references, cite your references in the body of the paper to validate the information. All right. Other key areas for this section: describe an event in history with specific detail. Go back to your assignment and my feedback that talks about that, and then incorporate that in your paper along with the current trends that impact the work of the agency. And remember to describe or discuss how these trends relate to the human services field. So you're going to pull some key information out of the ebook to help you align and connect your agency to the human services field or field of practice or professional field. If they're real strict on code of ethics, you can also use the NOHS website to do that as well. Okay. All right, let's take a look at those theories, values, and ethics. In this particular section, don't forget to put your heading and center it. Review the code of ethics for human service professionals and the theories learned in the class. Remember, when you're looking at the code of ethics, you're going to look at those ethical standards. So they're very important. That's going to the NOHS website and looking at those ethical standards and just identifying some. All right. Also, describe the importance of the code of ethics. How would the code of ethics, and let me highlight this part right here. How would the code of ethics impact your provision of services in the agency? Like, how does the code of ethics bound you and ensure that the appropriate services based on your professional ethical standards are accurate So look at your code of ethics, your standards, and just kind of talk a little bit about that. Remember to cite this information. Provide details on which standard. Now, when this is the key word. When it says which standard, that means it wants you to identify one or more. Well, one is good. Detail which standard in the ethical standards for human service professionals will be more, and then detail which standard would be less challenging to implement and why. So go back to your assignment and look at where you address that and my feedback to assist in ensuring that you're answering it correctly. Now, when we get to the theories, which is letter C, describe a theory you might apply while working with clients in your agency and describe an example of how you might apply this theory. This is where you're going to go back to your ebook and kind of review those theories on page 75 and select one. Remember, theories have, just let me give you a heads up. You have theories and then you have conceptual frameworks. Theories have the word theory behind it. So when it says select a theory, it's pretty much saying choose a theory that has the word theory behind it. Because in that particular section where we talked about theories, you also have counseling approaches and you also have conceptual frameworks, which are not theories. It's two types of approaches that can help to understand why the services should be provided to the clients. Theories are one of them, conceptual frameworks or counseling frameworks is another. So for this particular section, you want to do theories. Okay. When we look at the roles in the helping process, you want to go back and kind of pay a visit to career roles on page 4 of your ebook. So let's take a look at this. Make sure you have a heading that's centered, and then identifying the roles for the agency in each stage of the helping process. Here is your key word, stages of the helping process. We just learned that in chapter 5 of your ebook. So identify the roles in the agency for each stage of the helping process. So this is not the helping process for social work, which was like it was a handout reading. This is for the helping profession. It comes out of chapter 5 in your ebook. So go back to your assignment and my feedback to incorporate this section in here. Provide justification. Justification means to provide cited research that what you're saying is true and valid based on what you've learned. Identify at least one role for each stage of the helping profession. So when we look at those roles, remember, we're going back to page 4 in your course ebook, and we're going to use it with chapter 5, which is the stages and roles of the helping process, to address a role for each stage. And then give a detailed example of where in the helping process each role could be used. And just pull that information out of chapter 5. You don't have to think hard about it, but you just have to show you are aware of the key skills and the roles and job responsibilities it takes to be a human service professional. Okay? All right, we're almost there. We're wrapping it up. Okay, so next will be some career opportunities. So when we look at those career opportunities, you still can pull those from page 4. Because page 4 in your ebook talks about the career positions. Let's look at, and don't forget, make sure this is a heading that is centered in your paper. Follow the APA guide. Discuss qualifications of an entry-level position you're interested in pursuing, and how does it compare with your personal experience. So when you're looking at an entry-level position and the qualifications of it, it's good. It's going to be okay to go back to the agency that you selected and the position that you would like to work in, but also integrate that with page 4 on the different types of careers that fall under the human service profession. Because remember, not every position out there that provides services to clients is considered human services. Human services actually provides certain services to clients only. So that's why it's called human services. Okay. So it doesn't play a big role in counseling. It doesn't play a big role in diagnosing clients. It's providing services to human beings. Okay. Look at your ethical standards, your National Organization for Human Services ethical standards. They're very clear in terms of what a human service professional would do in the career and how they would provide services to the clients. And also take a look at and discuss what qualifications you possess and the skills you lack to qualify for the position. And in that, you would just look at page 4. Just go to your ebook. Am I on page 4? Let me go to page 4 just to show you. Okay, hold on, page 4. I'm gonna go to page 4. Maybe just one page 4. There we go. All right, take a look at some of these. Let me start up here. Okay, these are the field experiences. So that's different. And this is a generalist role. So with the bachelor's degree, it's normally a generalist role that you would obtain, unless it's a job that you're already at and it has flexibility to move up at a bachelor's level. Okay. But when we come down to the job titles in human services, let's move this. This is where you can see the many different titles that are considered human services professional titles. Social work assistant is a human service title, but social work itself is social work. So just so y'all know. Okay. But take a look at those and kind of peruse chapter 3 and chapter 4, because when you get to chapter 4, here's where you can look at like what the job roles and the functions actually do. And just kind of scroll through that if you just kind of want to revisit it. But these are some of the titles that are designed for the human services profession. Skills and standards are also included. So this is a good section to take a look at if you just want to revisit. And when you want to talk about how, let me go back to the other one, the assignment itself. When you want to talk about the qualifications you possess and the skills you lack for what's needed, here is where we can go to the course text and kind of look at some of those skills. Here's the characteristics, what degrees you might need, how supportive, how low focus. These are high, criteria areas. If you have an associate's or bachelor's, look at what's highly used in that profession, what's moderately used, and what's really not included in that profession. It's a low use. Okay. All right. And then you're going to create a conclusion with a heading called Summary of Learning. So in the Summary of Learning, this is where you're going to do not start any information that can create a whole nother paper. You're actually going to summarize what you have said in your current paper and then providing like a paragraph or two, preferably a paragraph or two. Let the first paragraph summarize what you have said in your paper about the agency and the profession. And then letting the second paragraph talk about how you can apply it in your everyday life. Now remember, in a summary of learning, there's no citations. you do not cite in the conclusion section. All right, so everybody notated that? Did you find this to be very helpful? If so, please email me and let me know. Now, the milestones that support this assignment is right here where they kind of do a revisit to tell you one page. These are the guidelines on how you're going to put it together. One page of the overview. Feel free to go over if you want to another page, but no more than like 2 pages and how you're discussing this. Because I do not want to, and let me go down here to the bottom so that way you can know. I do not want you to exceed 7 to 10 pages because of the volume of students, the number of you all enrolled in the class. It will take you forever. And I have had some students, they would like submit 15 pages, and this holds me up from being able to grade another student's paper in a timely manner. I'm asking that you please be mindful to condense your work to no more than 7 to 10 double spaced pages. The title page is one of them already, and the reference page is another. So that's 2 pages already used. So no more than 10 pages total. Remember to please double space. Learn what double space is. I have said time and time again what it is. I have posted a lot of APA resources in the course to help you because double spacing is what's used in the profession. If you don't know how to double space, well, oh, here's another tip. When you go for any type of human services position, or maybe a social work position or an aid position, you will find that agencies are giving you a writing sample. So they will sometimes they'll give you a writing sample just to see how well you write. If you don't even learn how to double space in that writing sample, the sometimes that can be a major reason why you're not getting the job, is because it's called non-scholarly work. So learn how to use APA and double space. Also, make sure you learn to format your paper using 12-point Times New Roman font. These can be, if you want to know how to double space a paper and use Time New Roman's font, you can YouTube it. YouTube APA. They will help you. I've posted a YouTube video for SNHU. That SNHU does an amazing job in showing you how to format a paper. And then making sure that that last page is only for references with a centered heading that says references in bold font, just like the bold font they have set up in this assignment instruction. And that's pretty much it. If you use AI to assist, I strongly encourage that you're mandated to state it on the title page. You're supposed to state it at the bottom of the title page. I encourage not to use AI for the simple fact is that if you go for an interview and you're sitting among 5 to 7 people interviewing you for a human service profession, will not be there. AI cannot assist you. So try to format and learn the content for yourself so that you're preparing for those interviews when you're in there by yourself. And AI cannot be brought into those interviews. Okay? All right. So if you have any questions about this assignment, which is worth like 215 points, I strongly encourage that you email your instructor. You also have my number. If you have a lengthy email that you want to send me, please be mindful of the volume of students that email me in this class. And I encourage to utilize the option of picking up the phone and contacting me at my office. Some of you have already done that, and you will find that you can get a quicker answer. I will be happy to translate it as simple as possible and even help to walk you through it, as long as you do it before Saturday and Sunday so that you can have time to develop a perfect and accurate paper. Okay? All right. One last thing I want to share is when you finish, Just make sure you put your paper down, look at the rubric, pick it back up, and try to grade yourself. You will never go wrong if you try to score yourself based on what you learned in each module from the ebook readings and the current assignments that you have currently put together along with my feedback. It always gives you a fresher mind if you begin as early as possible to the point where you finish early and you put the paper down and then you come back to it like the next day or the day after. If you rush through this assignment on the weekend, which I strongly discourage, you will be stressed out and you will not produce a scholarly paper. So I strongly encourage that you take time out to outline your paper based on the work that you have already done and my feedback. Go through each section and align it with the chapter readings in the ebook. And then also compare it against the APA formatting to develop one of the most top scholarly professional papers that show that you learned what it takes and the key elements that is needed and the theories that is required and the standards that you're bound by to become a human service professional. All right, with that being said, this concludes our review. And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email me again. For lengthy ones, I ask that you please give me a call. Feel free to call my office and just let me know that you're like, Dr. Bell, I have questions I need to ask. And can you help me real quick? And that's what I'm here for. Just remember, Saturdays and Sundays doesn't give you time to produce an effective paper and a scholarly one at that. So you got this. You got this. You've learned it. You're on your way. You can do this. Go out, do great work. Do great work in this course and all of your other courses. And I look forward to reading your Module 7 Agency Exploration paper. Take care and have an amazing day.